Hi, this is Alan Binder. Over the past several months, Ken and I have been astounded that we've had quite a number of people wanting our little kits, and we're very pleased about that. But as time has gone on, we've also found things that we wanted to improve the kits and help it make it simpler and better a telescope when you get done. So we have added an addendum or addendi to our video and to our text. So the first addendum, we point out that, as we've said before, we lose money on these kits. It takes us quite a bit of time and effort to make each kit. And so to minimize our financial losses, we no longer supply the bolts, the 6 bolts, the 6 nuts, and the 12 lock washers that are needed to make the spindles. So that's the first addendum, and you'll have to buy those yourself and assemble them, which you would have had to have done anyway. The second addendum, we have found that some people cannot find the drill stand, and so we were asked how we could make one, and so we have shown in addendum 2 how to make a simple stand for the drill so you can use it inverted, just made out of wood. It's not very complicated at all. The third addendum is a very important one. As we say in the text, the original text, which we have not changed, you need to grind the plano side, grind and polish, fine grind and polish I should say, the plano side of the main objective, because in the past we found that the plate glass was not very flat, and so you needed to make sure it was flat. However, the glass that we are now using seems to be very, very flat, and as you'll find out in a little bit, in one of the later addendum, I broke the objective of one of these telescopes that I've had for a while, and I made a new lens, and I tried to make it to see if the flat side did not need the grinding and polishing, and it turns out it doesn't seem to. So you need not fine grind and polish the plano side. If it turns out when you've got the telescope completed that there is astigmatism, that would indicate that the plano surface is not plano, then you would have to go back and fine grind and polish the plano side. We doubt that is going to be the case, and this means there's one less major step in making your telescope. The fourth addendum is also very important. As we say in the text, when you are polishing on the pitch lap, the heat generated by the friction deforms the lap. And that's no problem for the 2 eyepiece lenses because they have such steep curves. But it is a problem for the main objective lens. And so we are telling you that you can get some burlap, coarse burlap, and dip it in hot pitch, and then put that on the tool, and then trim with a pair of scissors the excess around of the pitch-soaked burlap, and then proceed in polishing. This will make it much more easy to keep the figure of the main lens of what is supposed to be a sphere. Or if you do have to grind and polish the plano side, it will minimize the deformation any deformation I should say, due to the pitch lap being heated up by the friction. This will, again, just like not having to grind and polish the plano side, if you use the pitch-soaked burlap, try to say that fast, you will also have a much easier job in making a good lens. Then the fifth addendum is related to what I said. The way I had designed the cell holder, the lens actually sticks out of the main tube, and so when you take the dew cap off, the lens can fall out. And that's what happened, and I broke the lens and had to remake that lens. What we have done is just moved the inner ring that holds the lens down into the tube as you see in the diagram that we have in the addendum. And then the configuration is different, but in this case, when you pull the dew cap off, the lens will be firmly in the telescope. There's no way it can come out because both parts of the cell, the part that actually holds the cell and then the part that pushes against that and keeps it in the cell, is a much better configuration. That can save you quite a bit. And if you've already built one of these telescopes, you might consider modifying it and making this change to the cell. However, if you do this, you're going to the tube has to be 1.5 inches longer because the lens is no longer outside the main part of the tube, it's down in the main tube. Okay, then the sixth one, the making the mounting ring and the mounting yoke much more sturdy. The design that what we used and we have in the main part of the text was one I had used for a Keplerian telescope with a 36-inch focal length, and it worked fine. But since your telescope has a 60-inch focal length, we have found that you can increase the stability by making the ring itself bigger, and secondly, making the sides of the yoke and the bottom larger. The sides will be trapezoidal, as you'll see in the drawing and I should say not drawing, in the photograph. This will increase the stability quite a bit and make it much more comfortable and easy to use. Along the same lines, because the telescope is 60 inches long, and the counterweight point is about halfway up to 2, so it's a good 30 inches long. There's a large swing between looking at something near the horizon and looking something at much higher azimuth. As such, it's kind of difficult to have that swing and be comfortable. So what we've done is just added some lead weights. I just took some lead and epoxied it to the back of the tube so that it would, the point of where it's attached to the main yoke is much closer, and so you don't have as big a swing. Then finally, a couple more. We talk about having a catch tub on the when you're grinding and polishing to catch the mud and the water and stop it from dripping down into the drill, the inverted drill. And we found that can be a pain in the neck. And as such, you can use it if you want to. If you find that it's annoying, as I have in the past, then don't bother with it. That will mean that some mud and water will get into your drill. It's up to you what you want to do. And the final addendum is that when I make the wooden parts for the eyepieces and the cells, the lens cell, etc., they all fit very nicely when I'm done. But unfortunately, as we all know, wood expands and contracts as the humidity changes. And so it's conceivable when you receive your kit, some of these pieces will not fit properly. They'll either be too loose or too tight, and so you may have to either sand them or use tape, Scotch tape or electrical tape to shim them up. So those are the 9 things that we have found with time to make your life and easier in making this telescope and making a better telescope. I think the main things, of course, are not necessarily needing to grind and polish the plano side of the objective, using the pitch-soaked burlap lap, which is a lot easier to make than a regular pitch lap, and of course the changing the yoke of the mount so that it's sturdier. We hope that all this will help you make your telescope better. If you've already made one, that you can modify it and take advantage of these changes.